Welcome to Sex and the Solo Girl. Join your host, her inner circle, and expert guests weekly for chats about dating, secure attachment, the solo lifestyle, doing relationships differently, and of course, sex. And here's your host, Janice Formicella.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sex in the News. And welcome back to the podcast. My amazing partner, Chris. How's your day?
It's busy, but it's going well.
Today, we're going to be talking about places that people fantasize about having sex, according to an article by the HuffPost. And I asked Chris to come on and chat with me about this. And I guess before we get started, I'll say, I believe that I might have some preference for some of these. We're going to be talking about a top 10 list. However, I believe that I have more fantasies about sexual acts than sexual locations. And I will also say that I have sexual fantasies about scientists. And my partner is a scientist.
Wonder what that could be about. And I would have to say that I have not read this list and I am going in absolutely blind. So I have no idea what's being thrown at me here.
Yes, I'm so excited to be doing content with you. And also, everybody keep your eyes on this space because Chris and I also just started doing a new feature called Define Your Sex Life, where Chris comes on and reads to me so far Urban Dictionary definitions, though we might expand in the future, of different sex acts. And I hear them for the first time. So that's been going well so far. And I've really wanted to do Sex in the News. And you know what? We've just got great on-air chemistry, my dear.
Oh, yes.
And so I thought we would collaborate some more. So thank you for doing this. And I can't wait to hear from you about what you think about some of these.
Well, let's see. Throw them at me.
I will. Before we get into it, though, let's talk about what sexual fantasies are. I went in and actually went on Google Scholar and poked around a little bit just to add a little more context to the conversations. And so I wanted to just, I guess, lay a little bit of foundation for this. So obviously, a sexual fantasy is something that you think about, not necessarily act out. One of the papers I found said sexual fantasies are not necessarily desires that people even want to perform in real life, but they are better represented as an expression of imaginative or phantasmatic activity, which obviously phantasmatic activity. Ooh, that is a sexy word. I like that. For example, having erotic fantasies relating to paraphilia topics is neither rare nor directly connected to committing a crime. Chris, do you know what a paraphilia topic would be?
I am not sure. What is it?
Basically, something that would be considered taboo. For instance, a common one that many know of these days would be someone who has sexual fantasies involving an inanimate object, for instance. So a little, I guess more unusual, like I said, a little more taboo. And a lot of people fantasize about these things, but like I said, don't even necessarily want to act them out.
I was going to say, I think that is a very important distinction here when you're talking about fantasies versus, because a lot of people just think that, you'll hear about your partner's fantasies like, okay, these are things that we have to act out. And that's not true. In fact, a lot of people, I've even met some that have tried to pursue a fantasy and found out that once they got it, it was nothing like what they had in their head.
We're like, put the brakes on. We had a very good conversation about this recently. So yes. And along those lines, another quote from the paper that I pulled out, and I'll link to it in the show notes. In intimate relationships, sharing sexual fantasies between partners seems to increase the positive perception of the relationship. which in turn may motivate the partners to invest further in the relationship. But again, we're not talking about necessarily telling your partner your fantasy and then any sort of pressure or expectation that the two of you will act it out. I mean, maybe. Sure.
Maybe.
Yes.
Enough conversations and talking and figuring out that maybe it is something that you want to pursue, but sometimes it's just fun to say what's going on in your head.
And use it as some pillow talk. Ooh, I'm getting a little turned on. I got to be honest here. And another thing that I wanted to mention before we get into this, all studies, and I did poke around quite a bit, said that whilst we may associate men with having more sexual fantasies or thinking about sex every 4 seconds or something, it's actually been shown that the difference between the number of sexual fantasies that men and women have, there's a lot less difference than people actually think.
Yep.
So, and I felt very validated.
Romance books has entered the chat.
Yeah. Totally. Okay, so I will say this study of the top 10 places that people fantasize about having sex was conducted by the company Love Honey. They surveyed 2,000 US adults. And there have been similar surveys and studies done by other companies and institutions that this particular HuffPost article linked to that showed a lot of similarities. So Chris, do you think that 2,000 people is a good sample size?
I mean, like the nerdy statistician in me says it all comes down to how they sampled their population, but it's pretty reasonable start, I'd say, without knowing more.
Again, Chris, talk science too. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm gonna read the list. Let's go through it. You know what? They actually didn't rank these. So we're just talking about general top 10. Okay. First one, in the shower. I mean, really? I wouldn't really consider that to be that out there. I mean, it's right there in your bedroom. I mean,
just do it. Yeah. I don't know. I guess, yeah, I would say that would be one of those fantasies that are probably more commonly acted out by a lot of people. Just be sure to have a no slips. Just be sure to have a no slip surface to stand on.
Oh, I'm thinking of a couple things. I don't know about you, Chris. And I have to say, yes, I can. Sex in the shower, go for it. That can be great. On the beach, that's sexy.
Yeah. With the sunset and the waves
and the
crashing upon the shore.
Crashing. Oh, I like that one.
I think the sand might be more of an issue than a lot of people think when applying it in real life. But I
spent a lot of time on the beach in general and doing various things, and that sand can be more pesky than some people may think. Like, yowza. In a car.
Right.
I mean, this is people's fantasies. Again, like, go for it, man.
Yep.
And again, I'm having more thoughts that involve you, my dear.
I would say with the car, the size does matter.
Yeah, I don't know if positioning and
you'd have to be. Yeah. I mean, if you're going at this in a smart car or something, you'll have to be very creative in your positioning. But if you're in a mid to large SUV, that might be a little easier to make happen.
Or get outside and push her over the side of the sea and go for it.
There's that.
Woo, I am like, I don't know how I'm even going to make it through this. I am hot and bothered, very much so. All right, so we got in the shower, on the beach, in a car, in a pool.
Okay,
yeah. In the ocean. So we've got on the beach and in the ocean.
Okay.
So, let me think about this. So on the beach, I get that. In the ocean, I could see that being kind of tricky. Like, how far in are we talking away from shore?
Depends on the wave base, or I can throw another wrench into this, and it depends on if you're a scuba diver or not.
Oh my God. Stop it. Now
that would open up a whole new world.
Well, see, you and I have talked about the fact that I'm not interested in scuba diving and you are. And you're always like, you know what? It's totally okay. We don't have to have all the same hobbies in common.
Mhm.
But now I'm like, well, fuck. I should be pushing myself a lot harder with this scuba diving thing. Okay. Also, if you've had sex in the ocean, I want to hear from you. Like in the water, not on a boat, like in there. Okay, moving right along. Like now I just have so many questions. All right. I bet you could pull it off. You're very strong, but I could see that I just have questions. So get in touch, please.
Okay.
All
Yes,
right.
please.
Oh man, my mind is wandering like crazy. Okay, so number 6 or sixth on this particular list. This was cute to me. On top of a pool table.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
could
see
see
that.
that being pretty hot. You've got it's an, I guess, yes, unusual. You've got a firm foundation. And so I'm sure you could really get it on with a pool table involved. In a lot of cases, there would be some level of publicness to it. Not in all. I know people have
yes.
pool tables at home and it's sexy. I mean, I
You've been
associate pool tables with bars and low lighting and
you've been
stuff.
having a few drinks and playing around and playing another round and having a few more drinks, and then
Yes.
suddenly
And
suddenly a bet comes into play and you start to raise the stakes,
Chris.
and whoever wins gets what they want on top of the pool table.
Oh my God.
I can
When are
definitely
you
see
going to
that
be
being a
getting your pool
situation.
table?
Oh, I love
Also,
that.
playing pool in itself is pretty sexy. I know I always feel kind of
Oh
hot.
yeah.
You've got the actual cue, you've got your
Mhm.
hands around it, stroking a
Mhm.
little, you're bending over, you're in
Mhm.
close quarters. Yeah, I can see that as a
Shooting at the
fantasy.
holes. Oh
You've
yeah.
got holes. Yes, you've got holes. Oh, okay. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. This one didn't surprise me. At work,
Yeah, I can see that one.
we were horribly let down when you switched companies, Chris, because circumstances, and I can take this out if you want.
Mhm.
Circumstances prevented us from acting this out because I actually know that it's a fantasy that we both have. But also we both worked from home and we
Mhm.
had some fun with that aspect of it.
Oh yeah.
We're at work.
Mhm.
All right, at work, I love that. That is sexy for sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
I can understand that a lot. All right, at work, in a sauna. Let's talk about this one.
That is pure. That is to me a thing to stay in the world of fantasy,
Yeah.
because thinking about all of the sticky mechanics, I get overheated way too easily as it is. So even just
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it in a really hot environment like that, it sounds sexy, but
Yeah,
it's sexy in your head, I think, at least to me. Your mileage
I
may differ.
when I was really, really young and just starting to even think about these things, so I'm talking like even high school, I also had this idea that somehow having sex in a sauna sounded sexy, but now, absolutely not. Like all the no's.
Mhm.
Not interested, but again, if this is your fantasy, this one I would, yeah, challenge you to see if it's as sexy as you think it's going to be, because I think it sounds like you could have a lot of a lot of health implications, I'm sure, as well. Oh, and you know what? Let's back up also to the pool issue. So we've
Mhm.
got in the shower, on the beach, in a car, in a pool. I will also say for this one, tread very, very, very lightly. The chemicals that are in a pool or in a hot tub do not belong up you.
Yeah.
You can have good sex. Yes.
Mhm.
But the aftermath is possibly not worth it. These are not things that you want up inside of you. So yeah, maybe on the side of the pool. I really just a little word of caution to everyone, because it can make your next sexual encounter go horribly wrong if you're feeling
Minor
the
health
feeling the
concerns
afterburn.
involved. Just some health concerns involved around it sometimes that can be prepped around, but want to be aware of them, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, you do. So we've got in a sauna, not Chris or my fantasy. Number 9 on the list, in a limo.
Doesn't that count as in a car? Isn't that just a special subset of in a car?
I mean, yeah, obviously it's an automobile, but I think this is it's specific.
Oh yeah.
Just like if in a car was one of them, but then high up on the list, people were specifically saying a Jeep, which that's my fantasy.
I know what you're talking about there.
So in a limo, I'm on board with that one. And I kind of like this one too, in a friend or family member's house.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I definitely see that one.
All right. So, Chris.
Just make sure they don't have any living room cameras or monitoring devices indoors when you attempt said fantasy. Because you might turn it into an unintentional exhibitionism fantasy there.
Well, see, and that's my thing. And that's what I was saying. I'm more about the sex acts than the sexual places. I mean, a lot of my fantasies, I do see some people watching me, but more the actual acts. Like, for instance, the shibari things and some other stuff that I could see kind of sexy. I'm thinking of a couple things now that would involve oral sex, you receiving, me giving, and possibly some public places involved.
I'd say a lot of those, the setting can kind of change the aspect of the act a little bit. So
we're going to have some fun conversations coming up about this. So did anything surprise you? Did it, I mean, what are your thoughts on this before we wrap up? Like, what are you thinking? What are your favorite inclusions from the list?
Honestly, the thing I think I was surprised about the most was how relatively tame that list felt. Like when you're talking about fantasies, why aren't we seeing like, I don't know, Airplane didn't even end up there, like Up in the Air or in a bar, like it feels like there would be a lot more variety with fantasy involved on the rim of a volcano overlooking the rest of Hawaii, like
on the rim of a volcano. Hell yes. Yeah. One of the paragraphs says clinical sexologist and sexuality educator Lawrence Siegel told HuffPost that the results of the survey are pretty consistent with other findings on the topic. And I did look at these studies they linked to. He was, however, surprised by a few locations that didn't make the list, like an aeroplane bathroom, a hot tub, a hotel balcony, store dressing room, or at a bar or club, he said.
Yeah.
Los Angeles sex therapist Nazanin Moali, host of the Sexology podcast, was surprised that the Mile High Club wasn't mentioned, as her clients and audience often say it's one of their sexual bucket list items. Who knows? Yeah. One of the main reasons new places invite a sense of novelty. Daydream about having sex somewhere other than your own bed adds a little spice and excitement.
Well, for sure.
It's true. Yeah. Especially if it's a somewhat public place, I suppose. And also fantasizing about different locations can be a way to break out of one's sexual routine and shake things up a bit. Sex play outside the bedroom is a good start. Kitchen on top of a water machine, or on top of a washing machine, the backyard, etc. So this actually brings us to our places that I have fantasized about. And definitely, I should have mentioned earlier, in the woods, outside, in the forest is absolutely something that I do fantasize about. And that has been fulfilled.
We have that one in common for sure.
Yes. And enjoyed you fulfilling.
And there was actually another one I was surprised wasn't on the list as well. So
yeah, just generally.
We had an outside. We had the beach, which counted, but it felt like there should have been more outside specific or environmental.
Mm-hmm. Like in the rain, maybe
yeah.
maybe that's not a place, but
overlooking the rim of the Grand Canyon after a light shower comes through and a rainbow scorches the sky.
Or in a park. That is still one of mine ever since that night. But also that kind of contradicts what we were saying before about these being fantasies and not things that people will actually play out. And I do want to say, if you have a fantasy, speak with your partner about it. And hopefully you'll be in a relationship where you can feel safe to just voice these things and talk about them and just have it be fantasy for fantasy's sake. But it could be a lot of fun to act some of this out, especially if you're going on a sexy vacation or a night away or something. But I also would just recommend when you kind of use talking about this as some foreplay and chat with your partner about it and kind of role play and act it out just verbally. I think could have a lot
just
of
as
spice.
something as simple as, what I've always wanted to do.
Oh my God. Or what I'm picturing, or
yes.
What would you think of this? And just keep talking about it while you turn up the volume. Chris, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh yeah.
Places to have sex in the news, number 1 or 2. I'm not exactly sure when this is going to drop, but this was really fun, and it's definitely got me thinking. For sure. What about you?
Oh, me too. In fact, I kind of want to hear what interesting fantasies or places some of your listeners might have here. If there's some extra interesting locations or
that you have or that you want
that are not on this list or would be a great addition to it. It'd be great to hear that.
Yes, please, please, please let me know. Because I do have to admit, and as I said, I looked at all the other studies, it does seem a bit tame. So I'm not sure if maybe they are providing people a limited amount of options or something. I mean, I looked at a more highly academic study, and it was a lot of this stuff. So I'm not too sure. If you got a spicier place that you fantasized about having sex, yes, do let me know for sure. Yes, I could see restaurant or bar. I fantasized about us doing some things at a couple bars that I won't name on the air.
And I am sure that your audience here is probably way more creative
than at work in a limo. All right. Well, thank you so much. Chris and I both got to get back to what we're doing for the day.
Oh, yeah.
I am just loving having you on so much. And I will see everybody soon for more spicy shit for Sex and the Solo Girl coming at you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Sex and the Solo Girl with Janice Formicella, the podcast for those who want to add more flavor to their relationships with themselves and others. If you liked today's episode, make sure to head over to Instagram and let her know. See you next week.